You mentioned recovery and things, and it segues nicely into this last part that I wanted to talk about, which is obviously is your history with drugs and being from Ireland. Obviously, as you said when we first joined the space, Ireland it's almost more accessible to drugs than most people would think, and I think the main thing for people that are addicted to drugs is how do I start? How do I get off them? It's kind of there is no instruction manual. There's no class in school that's going to teach you it. So, if someone came up to you now as you're recovered and asked you how do I quit drugs, what would the main basic intro blueprint be?
Well, actually, the getting out of drugs is also kind of simple, but there's the big problem is, of course, people need to want to do it, and I've been clean out of drugs for 21, almost 22 years from drugs and alcohol. So I know a lot about drugs and alcohol and how to stay clean. I know how to be clean for 22 fucking years, and but it's the same thing for everybody that you have to admit that you have a problem, because that's the first thing a drug addict would say, that I don't have a problem, you have a problem. That's the first thing they would say.
Yeah, blame.
Yeah. So you have to admit you have the problem, and then you have to ask for help. And when they ask for help, I will just say one thing. I would say call me every day and go to meetings. Go like that's why AA and NA and those, or any kind of group that's people who have recovered from that addiction, they can help you because they've done it. So you go in there, do what they say, and that's it. You'll stay clean. But as you can see, people won't do it because
Yeah,
they it takes humility to admit the defeat and then go to the meeting, start talking there, start doing the steps that they give you. They will give you a program that, like, everybody knows, there's a 12-step program, and if you do it, you will stay clean. It's so simple, but most people won't do it, and almost everybody relapses. I met like 10,000 addicts in my lifetime, and from the addicts who, this is the same thing as we talked before. Everybody gets clean, two people stay clean. But addiction is kind of difficult to study, because you might be. I know many people who have been clean for 10 years, then they relapse, and then they die, or they use for 5 years and then they come back. You can't put a statistic on that, because they might relapse 20 times and then come back. So there's no there's no pattern that you can like study or anything, and so it's not about being a win or a loss. It's more about like if you're 10 years clean, you use 5 years, then you come back and you stay clean the rest of your life. I would say that's a win. But if you are 10 years clean, relapse and die, that's a loss. So there's no control over it, and but it's more like a day by day thing, like the nicotine thing, that you just have to work for it, and because that the sure thing is that it's not going to go away by itself. If people could heal themselves from addiction, every addict in the world would be free from addiction, but they can't do it by themselves, so they need other addicts to help them.
yeah. Something you mentioned there that I think it's quite important that people probably breeze past is people can get clean, but very few people can stay clean. How much do you think the people you surround yourself and the environment you put yourself in relates to that?
I think it's everything. You can't stay in the you can't stay with the drug addicts and use with you know the paraphilia and everything, and you can't stay with that stuff, and it's like with everything. If you want to be a creator, you surround yourself with creators. If you want to have money, you start surrounding yourself with people who have money, and it's the same thing here. If you want to stay clean, you go to a meeting where there's addicts and start surrounding yourself with addicts, and like with everything, it's so simple. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's so simple to follow.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the hard thing about it, because people also want a step by step plan, so they don't have to think for themselves.
Yeah,
But that that's only the start, the 50% of it. That for recovery or anything else, that we give them a step-by-step plan, but to complete the step-by-step plan, they have to start thinking about themselves and their story and their lives and how they can like creatively do this. So there has to be some kind of a self-reflection, and not everything can be outsourced to somebody telling you what to do all the time.
Yeah. The simple but hard thing is what I relate to a lot, because whenever I was battling mental health, it definitely helped me. Is people are probably going to hear that quote and think that we're making it out as it was so easy and things like that, but it's not. The format is simple. The thing to do is hard, but it's not like there's hidden messages in the outline of how to beat anything. It's very simple. You like if we sat someone down that's an addict, they could explain to us exactly why they're an addict. They could explain what they do. Same with someone who's depressed, they could explain exactly what is making them depressed. The difference is between someone who does beat it fully and someone who just beats it for some time is it's some as they see how simple it is, they just remove themselves from these situations. But that doesn't mean that it's easy to do. To pull yourself out of those situations is one of the most difficult things in the world. But you know it's in black and white. That's how you beat anything.
Yeah, yeah. The problem is our own mind, because that's the worst enemy. There's like two voices in my head that's telling me, the negative voice is telling me you're not good, and you'll always be an addict. And it's a combination of voices that I heard before, my mother, my father, the bullies I met, and it's all formed by that. And when it consumes all your thinking, there's not much you can do about it until you hit rock bottom, and there's going to be some kind of an incident that will take you out of uh, uh, the reality you live in. And for me, it was when I lost everything. I didn't have I was homeless. I had no money. I had nothing, and that's it. And then I saw myself in the mirror. I was a skeleton, and then I saw the truth that this is what I am, but I don't have to be this anymore.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much that is legit perfectly nailed. So you mentioned that you were homeless. So how did you go from what? Well, first we need to find the timeline. How long after or before was MMA from when you were homeless?
There's a 9 year time span, because I was clean many years when I started MMA.
Right. So you were homeless before MMA or after?
Before, like when uh, I was very young. I was 21 or 20, 21 when yeah 20 and 21. I didn't have any home, and I lived with my friends. It's a drug, you know.
Yeah, couch
Yeah,
surfing.
yeah, and we use drugs all day. So
So that's quite an extreme change as being homeless and taking drugs to putting your body through extreme measures and stand in the ring with someone who pretty much wants to kill you. How did you transition into that? Because it seems two different worlds completely.
well, the boxing thing played a part of it, and because before I was a drug addict, I was really because I'm old. I watched a lot of Mike Tyson when he was live, like, and I was really addicted to sports and boxing and everything. And so when I got clean, I kind of took the path I think I should have taken if I hadn't used drugs, and I got back to bodybuilding. And then I noticed that I don't want to do bodybuilding. I want to fight. And then I just went to the gym. I met this guy in the gym, and he said that he started MMA, and I told him I want to try it also, and he invited me there, and I went to the basic class, and I just couldn't stop. I noticed that I'm a lot better than everybody else because of my boxing background, and then I then I noticed that you have to, for MMA, you have to learn. Of course, you have to learn Thai boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, Greco-Roman.
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah, and that was like the most fascinating thing, that I'm a good boxer, but this doesn't help me with the guy who knows how to take me down, how to solve this problem, and that was so all I did. I was thinking about that I went to training, I got my ass kicked, went home, looked videos all night and studied. Then I got back to training, got my ass kicked until I didn't get my ass kicked anymore. And it took maybe a year, and then I noticed that I'm better than everybody else. And then I started looking for people who are better than me, and I repeated the cycle all over again.
Yeah, so the whole fighting and the fascination with it, that kind of distracted you from whatever was dragging you down to make you homeless. Then would you say?
Yeah, but as I said, because when I was homeless, I got clean when I was 21, and then there's no 8 years between, and then I started MMA.
Yeah, so it was quite a journey. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
just see what you mean. Yeah, I think that's all topics covered that I had wrote down in research. But there was something that you did mention that's been playing in my mind for now maybe about 10, 15 minutes. Was whenever I asked you about the blueprint for quitting drugs or quitting addiction, you said that you mentioned that the person should take your number and ring you anytime. And it brings me back to a TV show I watched maybe about a year ago. It's a basketball TV show in America called Swagger. And they have this
yeah,
constant quote of be a 24-hour person. And they never really explained it much on the show. But I then watched a TikTok of someone that I do follow quite closely, the creator, and he mentioned that there's two different kind of stages of friendship. There's the friendship of I have nothing to do. I'm going to ring someone and find something to do. And then there's a friendship of I'm in the pits of hell at 2 a.m. I can ring him, and while I'm on the phone, he's going to be buttoning his belt, getting his car keys, and he's going to be coming to my house. That's the difference between getting people that will actually lift you up and help you and people that will drag you down. And I suppose that in a whole is the changing of environment.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, and I have those people, like if I need to call somebody, I have those people, and but that's I think the whole thing we talked about here comes down to the commitment that anything you do, you have to do it every day, and no matter what. If it's the recovery thing that you phone me every day, that's a commitment, and you have to do it like every day. Or content creation, or quitting nicotine, or anything you start, you just don't stop. Like, even if everybody else around you, nobody's listening to you, everybody else quits, you don't quit. And that's been the thing with my recovery, that almost all of my friends have relapsed or died, or went back to using. Some of them came back, but the thing I told myself, I'm not going, even if my best fucking friend starts using, I'm not going to use, because I'm not. It's my life, and you have to be selfish about that. And that's the mentality that you're gonna spread to everywhere. That if you start doing something for yourself, you're gonna do it every day, and don't stop, even if everybody around you is stopping or
Yeah,
telling
that
you something else.
that does really hit home because when I think about whenever I was going through obviously the darkest parts of my life, or the people that I was around that were doing the things that were making me beat myself up about that I was doing, and I look back now, a lot. I don't even know how many years on now. It's been almost just a blur, and I look back now, and they're doing the same things, if not worse. It's kind of like I know it is hard to pull yourself out of those situations or those environments, or you have memories and you have ties, you have lifelong ties to these people, but you almost have to kind of have that uncomfortable conversation with yourself of what, how would you react if your kids came to you and explained that situation to you, and they said I stayed with that bad group of people and they had all these things wrong with them. It's a hard thing to do, to be fair. That is probably the hardest point, is pulling yourself out of that situation and detaching yourself. But now I have detached myself and I look back, like like those situations haven't changed. They're still the exact same. It's just I'm not in them anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and Yeah, that's you just have to like stay on your mission. This is so cliche about talking this stuff, but most of it's just true that repetition and discipline and staying on your mission and of course there's going to be nuances and you have to think deeply about what do you want and everything but there's some principles that work every time and you can't go around them and look for because most of the people are looking for shortcuts and the next trick or and they're gonna fail every time because some trick might work for them for a while, but if you don't like have your own tricks, own systems, it's not gonna work.